It's the Growler with PD&Jay. Here to analyze for you today. From Growler bed to Jay's got stats. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Growler podcast.
All right. Welcome into the latest edition of PD&Jay here on the Growler. Paul Inner Jr., Jay Morrison, excited to be with you on a Monday, a little day early as we deal with all of our fun training camp schedules. How we doing, Jay?
Doing great. Looking forward to this show. I'm freshly coiffed. I mentioned it to you. I think a surprise alert popped up on my phone, a 8 a.m. haircut today. I was like, I don't remember scheduling an 8 a.m. haircut, and I didn't know if it was real or not, but I was like, I better show up. I want to make my barber mad if I blow it off. So I got there. He's like, yep, you're on the book for 8 a.m. I was like, all right. I didn't really need one. I don't know why I scheduled one for 8 a.m., but here I am.
You know what? Jay from the past just shows up sometimes. You don't know, like
Yes.
what you do sometimes. That's what my barber always just right downstairs. All I got to do is just pick it up and just decide today's the day I'm shaving. Every day is a day to shave. Well, Jay, it's good to have you. You're looking good as always. But I want to make sure we got a lot to get to today. We're going to bring in our good friend Mo Egger. We're going to talk to him. We haven't talked to him since Thursday's game. So I want to kind of go general. I'm just going to drop a softball onto him about this defense and see. We're going to see where it goes. I don't always know where it's going to go with Mo. So we're going to just lob it out there. We're going to see what direction he takes us. I've got a few things we're going to talk about. Some general defense talk there. Concern levels going to be a theme of the show today as they start to grow. It's that time. It's the concern level time where things start to happen. You see things that don't feel right. We talked a lot about this. Charlie came on the training camp recap. If you haven't gone and listened to that yet yesterday, so we gave him a chance to fire off some of his thoughts. Good conversations on safety, on receiver, and a number of other spots. So go back and listen to that if you have time. We'll have Who Dey Light later this week as we'll get into it. And then the Monday night game in Washington, we'll have a walkout just like we did after the first preseason game. Jay and I will have you covered on that. Great to have Joseph Toyota Cincinnati on board with them. That show was really fun, and it will continue to be. We're going to get into it's QB Tiers Day. So we're going to talk a little bit about Mike Sando's QB tiers, which I think Bengals fans are going to like. It wasn't rage clickbait that it sometimes can be anytime execs weigh in on Joe Burrow. So I'm hopeful that we won't have to deal with that on the internet today. Good stuff in there on Burrow. But one line stood out. We'll talk about that. We're going to get a little bit into the O-line mess before we talk to Joe. The Camargo Insurance Run Passer boot is coming your way. Again, the concern theme will pop up. We'll dive into that. Jay, you've got stats, of course. We have a Growler bet winner, and I'm really happy about it. I'm not going to lie. I'm very happy about how it turned out. It was very exciting. We're going to have a Growler bet that we're going to drop in for next week's game early, give you plenty of time to ponder and get your submissions in. We have some ARBIES for you, all the normal things that you can expect from us. Do want to remind everybody our next live show down at BetMGM and Tom's Watch Bar now right down there at the Banks across from Great American Ballpark is the season kickoff show September 4th. We'll be down there before Cowboys Eagles, leading you up into that. You'll have myself, Jay, our Growler cast, other local media will all be down there hanging out, talking Bengals season, taking predictions, taking your questions, having some drinks. It is going to be a blast. It'll lead you right up to the start. Then you can hang out and watch Cowboys Eagles, the show we do every year. We love it. It's so much fun. We hope to see you guys down there. That's our next live of many live shows down at BetMGM this year. So we hope to see you down there for that. Until then, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code Growler in all caps, and you will get up a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager. So just download the app, sign up using the bonus code Growler in all caps, deposit at least $10, place your first wager on any game. You'll receive the same bet amount up to $1,500 in a bonus bet if your bet loses. So just make sure you use the bonus code and sign up. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code Growler and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. All right, Jay, let's QB tiers. Shall we start there?
Yeah, sure.
Mike Sando's QB tiers are out, and for the first time, it's been close before, but for the first time, Joe Burrow unanimous out of 50 execs, personnel people, coaches, unanimous tier 1 QB. Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, the only unanimous. He comes in tied with Mahomes in QB tiers for the top quarterback overall. And it's been close before. In 2023, there was one lone dissenter in 2023. Last year, there were 7. Now there were none after his performance last year. The quote from that part, I recommend you go. QB tiers is awesome. Sando does such a great job on that. But if you have a chance, go read through all of them. There's a ton of great stuff in there. But the quote from the top is, the closest thing to Joe Montana that I have seen is the quote, and says that is about as big a compliment as I can give you as a quarterback. For all the debate that rages on across the internet and that people want to discount and throw, I go back to things like this. I listen to the people that know the game, that are in the game, that understand it as well as anybody, that understand what really matters to those that are making the decisions. And there it is for you. Hopefully that puts, I know it won't, but hopefully that puts some of the rage and debate to bed.
Yeah, and right after that quote, it was pointed out that Joe Montana's defense many times led the league in fewest points allowed, and the Bengals were 25th in that category last year. So big difference there. I don't know how. I mean, it's the first time he's unanimous. I don't know how he could have not been unanimous, Burrow, that is, after that season last year. I just, even if somebody had some sort of personal axe to grind or whatever, there's no way you could not put him in the top tier. Little surprised Josh Allen wasn't unanimous after his season. I don't know. I didn't read his clip, but I don't know how many people put him in tier 2. And Burrow obviously is what we're talking about here. But if I'm talking about surprises in the whole piece, Baker Mayfield in tier 2, I found that a little surprising. And that's, you talk about angry. I think Cleveland fans letting that guy go for Deshaun Watson and the way that's played out, that's just been a disaster. But I was surprised to see Baker that high on the list, but not surprised to see Burrow up there, number 2 overall, and one of only 2 unanimous ones in tier 1.
Technically tied for first, but as you can't do better than that. For your question, Josh Allen, 3 dissenters, putting Josh Allen in tier 2. I think the turnover-worthy play thing still being a part of his game a little bit, and trying to play hero ball is the only thing that's kept a couple of people out. But yeah, it's a tough argument to make at this point with him. The one thing that I want to talk about is the quote that's in here. And this comes from, let's see, who was it? It was veteran offensive coach that Sando talked to. This is all anonymous so you can get true opinions. Says, quote, "To me, it's Mahomes and then Burrow. If I had to rank them, Burrow could be a 1 with a red cross on him. They don't protect him, and he gets the shit knocked out of him constantly," is the quote. And hard to argue. Especially as we sit here and talk about the topic that we're going to talk about a little bit here, this O-line mess. You heard us talk a little bit about it yesterday. Hard to argue with some of that is the view in the league. It is, they're just not doing enough to protect him. And I know that's the view of our listeners. That's what fills up the inbox. That's what fills up my mentions. That's what we're spending a lot of time talking about, is needing to spend more capital in protecting him. But I think that that's probably a consistent view across the league.
Yeah, but I'm not sure it's 100% on the O-line. We all know that Joe is willing to hold the ball till the very end, to let something happen. They're so good at off script. He doesn't mind waiting for things to kind of break down and then making something happen on the run. So yes, the O-line has not been good for the duration of his career here, but it's not all on the O-line, the number of hits he's taken.
Yes. Jay, do you have some I know people like to say things, but we here at the Growler, Jay likes to make sure that we can have some confirmation here, and let's see where the truth lies. Do you have some stats on this?
I do. So most quarterback hits taken 2020 to present. Joe Burrow, 5th most, 452, behind Russell Wilson, 497, Justin Herbert, 486, Kirk Cousins, 485, Patrick Mahomes, 460. Now you can't really go straight volume with Burrow because of the injuries. Rookie year, he missed almost half the season. Then the wrist injury 2 years ago, missed a lot of games. So I was curious, what about quarterback hits taken per game? He actually drops down. He's 7th in that. Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson, Carson Wentz, Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Deshaun Watson, all ahead of Joe Burrow. And it had to be a minimum of 200 hits. So I'm sure there's guys out there that, maybe played one game and got hit 10 times. That they wouldn't be eligible here. Joe Burrow, 6.5 hits taken per game. Matt Ryan at the top of that list with 7.4. So then I thought, okay, what about any 5-year period? And I didn't want to go back all the way, but I went back to 2010. So we're talking last 15 years. And Joe Burrow is 31st in total quarterbacks hits in any 5-year window. And he's 41st in hits per game in any 5-year window. So I thought that was it. Now, you have guys that were at the top of the list, Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan. They appear multiple times because 20 to 24, they were up there. 2019 to 23, they were up there. Again, it's any 5-year period, so there's a lot of repeat names in there. But overall, total numbers, Burrow was pretty far down the list. I was a little surprised by that.
Yeah, it's hard because then there's so many variables you're judging, and what about how quick he is at getting the ball out and processing, and you're in all of that. I think it's fair. I think it's beyond fair to say that they haven't gone as far as they can to protect him all the time. Certainly not in this particular offseason. But I think you can go back in the past and say they did try to spend money on the Kappas and the Karrases and all of that. I think the criticism is fair where they have spent their money and where Joe Burrow would often prefer for them to spend their money, which is on the skill positions and put a lot of capital into that. That said, I think it's a fair statement to say he does get the shit kicked out of him constantly because we do see that. And you go into this year, and I think that is one of your biggest concerns. Jay, you wrote a little bit about Seth McLaughlin, who's coming up. What's the status there with him?
Yeah, I mean, it felt like this could be a redshirt year for him. He tore his Achilles late November, missed that whole Ohio State national championship run. He was one of the most popular or one of the best guys that went undrafted. The Bengals got him, went after him hard, got him. He's back. I mean, he had a week on the non-football injury list, and they work him back in individuals. And then Saturday, we saw him in team drills. And I asked Zach about it on Saturday, and he said, yeah, absolutely. They want to see what they have in him. So I don't know if it's going to happen in Washington, but certainly by Indy in the final preseason game, I would expect to see him in there. And he's said, he's not trying to put any expectations. Of course, a goal is to make the 53, but he doesn't want to say he expects it. But I asked him about playing guard. Has he ever done that? And he said he's repped it a couple times in college, but it hasn't really done that. And he thought it would be a bigger challenge than maybe some people think, that he thinks he can do it, but to make that pivot at this point, it would be kind of a long game process. So I don't know that he would be an answer at guard if things keep trending the way they're trending there. You're looking for a backup, but he could be the backup. We still have not seen Matt Lee in teams, the 7th round pick from the year before. So I would think he's a little ahead of him. Andrew Rame, I think is just a placeholder right now. He's the one taking all the second team reps at center since Lucas Patrick went back out to be the first team guard. So McLaughlin, it's an interesting prospect there. I do think that with Zach's interest in seeing him and the fact that he's coming along so fast with the Achilles, that he could be a player for a spot on the 53.
Well, and the fact that it is taking this long to see Matt Lee, which it felt like it wasn't going to take this long to truly get him out there is also a part of this conversation of is there a concern about him getting back out there fast enough to be ready to say he's definitely your backup center or whatever that's going to be. So it's all part of this O-line mess, which, I talked about this with Charlie yesterday. The line that stood out from pitch yesterday is we're in the discovery process with what's going to go on there. And it really does feel that way. I feel like Dylan Fairchild is probably not part of the discovery process anymore after he went out there and backed up everything they thought he would be. I recognize backups and all that, but he looked enough the part. I mean, imagine if he would have gone out there and looked like a third-round rookie instead of looking like a guy who is ready to step into the role. And we'll see what happens there, but like that would have made this feel even crazier because Lucas Patrick had his issues. Cody Ford's now back out at right tackle. They're trying to figure out what's going to happen at backup guard. I guess Cordell's around in this mix, but you don't even really hear his name anymore. There's just such a mix and a mess here of what's going on, and it's hard not to look at that and say, need to be looking to add. They need to be looking to find somebody. There just needs to be another something on this line, specific, really anywhere, whether it be at tackle, whether it be at guard, that you feel like you could count on a little bit. And it just doesn't exist, and that is frightening. And you know who thinks that's on brand? Veteran offensive coach is who thinks that's on brand. Who pointed that out in QB tiers. Now it's time for our Camargo Insurance Run Passer Boot. By now you should know we're in week 3 of this. Josh with Camargo Insurance, fellow listener for a decade plus, and your judge and jury for run, pass, or boot this year. If you have an RPB that you want us to read, send your suggestions to Josh at CamargoInsurance.com. Now, look, when you work with Josh at Camargo on your insurance, it's a true concierge experience. There's no fluff, no runaround, just real one-to-one help from someone who gets it. Josh works with the best carriers in the industry. He's going to find you the perfect coverage for your home, auto, business, or life insurance needs. His mission is to empower you to live your best life with confidence, knowing your coverage actually makes sense. And you know what? Josh is a Growl pal, so he's a good dude, and he loves giving back because that's what Growl pals do, love to give back. So he's giving away 2 tickets to Bengals Ravens this year, the home game. All you got to do is request the free no obligation quote, no policy purchase necessary, anything to enter to win it. Okay. Then you're entered for the chance to win some seats and make sure your coverage actually makes sense. 2 birds, 1 stone. That's what we do here. Great stuff. Link to enter is found in the episode notes. You can also look at the QR code down there in the corner. Just hit that. It's right at the top. Stuff ready for insurance that's simple, personal, handled by someone who's already in the Growl Pal family. Reach out to Josh at Camargo Insurance and send in your RPBs. We want to see the good ones. We give you your shout out on the show if you have the best one from the week. So this week's best sent in to Josh at Camargo Insurance, which, by the way, shout out to the Growl Pals that have been sending these in. All of you that went in and put in to get the quote, trying to win tickets. Already got a couple of you guys turned over, realized I can save a bunch of money on my insurance. Bam, bam. We're rolling on that. So always love the Growl Pals. You guys always know a good deal when you see it. Question this week comes from Nate Smith. Nate wants to know most concerning individual position. So we've kind of done concerns and generalities in the past. Specifics here: right guard, safety 2, cornerback 2. Where does your concern most lie on this, Jay?
I mean, if you Google Cincinnati safety, there's national headlines about that. It has to be safety 2. Although I don't think those people on national headlines are talking about Tyson Anderson, Dejon Anthony, PJ Jules. But that is, in my mind, I don't know. I mean, maybe one of those guys can be the guy, but there's just such a lack of anything that proven at this point. I mean, hopefully, for Geno's sake, it is week to week and he's back before the start of the regular season. But that's the last line of defense. And we saw this defense be really bad against explosives, really bad in everything. And I think I have to run with safety 2. I'm gonna boot cornerback too. I think there's enough there that somebody's going to step up and play well. And if they slip, you've got guys waiting in the wing that can fill that spot a little more adeptly than at these other positions. Right guard's not. I'll pass on that just because I don't think it's that big of an issue with Lucas Patrick, but he does have an injury history, and if something does happen to him, then it becomes a huge concern. Because if you're talking about the backup there, I don't know where they go. I don't know. You talked about it. It's discovery mode. They don't know where they go at this point. But I think safety two has to be the run here.
I disagree.
Really?
I'm not buying Lucas Patrick. Well, I see a guy who is a journeyman who got beat by the backups from the Eagles like 3 times the other night, including one who just got almost untouched on a move. And we're talking about protecting Joe Burrow here. Okay. Yeah. The season's always alive as long as you're doing a better job protecting Joe Burrow. And I am concerned about Lucas Patrick as the guy. I'm concerned if it ends up being Cody Ford. I'm concerned if they have to go to a name that we don't even know yet. Okay. And so I am running with that. I will put safety next. Follow the money here. How much is Geno Stone making this year? Even at a pay cut, right? Mm-hmm. He's around 5. Lucas Patrick out here pulling in close to vet min. All right. Because I think that's how he's valued. And that's fine. Guard, not as important, where you can scheme around all that. The NFL finds your weak link and they exploit it on the line. You are only no donkeys, Jay.
Yeah,
you have to
right.
go back to no donkeys conversations. Feel like it's back. And so for me, protecting Joe Burrow being more important than whatever's happening on the defensive side of the ball. And look, I'll give whatever belief in Geno Stone that you want to have at this point, that he will be back and be okay. I'm going there, and I'm with you. I'm booting cornerback too as well. I feel like they have enough that you could maybe believe a little bit more in there. Certainly more that I can believe in than the other 2 spots that were mentioned. All right, remember, if you want to win Bengals Ravens tickets, the giveaway form is on the QR code and in the show notes. It's a no obligation quote. Policy purchase not necessary. One day, Jay, I will be able to say those 2 words together. They're hard to say together. It's a chance to go see Burrow versus Lamar, and your odds are great, which is great for you and for us. All right, let's bring in our friend and yours, Mo Egger. What's up, Mo? How we doing?
How we doing, fellas?
Great.
Doing good. How's the car?
The car is parked just outside UC's football practice, which is unfolding kind of in front of me right now. I think we're doing a punt team drill. Probably not allowed to say that, but the car is nice and cool. Practice is nice and hot. This is a good way to watch practice and have a conversation with you guys.
What is the possibility that you and Tony pull a car up onto the Bengals practice field and decide to start doing shows from the air-conditioned car? Are the Bengals going to allow that? Is the deal with iHeart strong enough for you guys to pull your car up there onto the field?
You know, I think once you have the car pulled up on the field, you're golden, right? Once it's there. Once we have gotten the car, at that point, just let us do it. So maybe that's something we'll try for our last 3 training camp shows.
Why don't you do a throwback and get a creepy white van and pull that up there?
Yeah, there it is.
The radio station does own a few creepy white vans. Well, I won't tell you what we call them, but we actually do have a few, and I refuse to be seen driving one.
Well, I will say this, we know who needs to be in there with you. Seg Dennison. Seggy's got to be in there, just like he was back in 1989. All right, that's what we need. That's a little inside for you Growler folks that remember the My Favorite Game or the rewatch, whatever we were calling it then, of the previous last Bengals playoff win. All right, I have this. You haven't been on air since the Bengals playoff game. Didn't it feel like a playoff game? It was so intense. The preseason game in Philadelphia. And before it, you had a long tweet where you had some time on your hands. And you mentioned some things you were thinking about leading into that game. You mentioned Shamar. You mentioned Miles Murphy. You even mentioned a guy who you just learned about, PJ Jules. And you had some other offensive players, but you had no thoughts on, general defensive theme, which was something I felt like we had spent a lot of time talking about being kind of a positive of the first 10 practices. So after the performance by the defense in the preseason game, that told you what about how you previously felt about this defense?
They haven't done enough to fix it yet. Maybe that changes in a month. But like everybody had the same takeaway, right? Like, boy, we've seen this movie before. I think you actually used that verbiage in your piece, Paul. Like we've seen this play before. Joe Burrow's great. They're on the other side of the result because the defense can't stop anybody. But for me, what's frustrating and just listening to you guys do run, pass, or boot, what's frustrating to me is not so much how they played, but after they played one game, we're talking about some of the same things that we were talking about when the offseason started. Like, wow, big surprise. We're talking about safety depth. Boy, nobody brought that up in March or April or May or June. And so when you're talking about something that's not that surprising because you're seeing some of the same results, that's deeply frustrating. And look, like there were positives on Thursday. Chase Brown, Dylan Fairchild, who to me was the guy that I was going to be watching the closest. I mean, like, go just lock down the job. Just go and let's have it so that over the next 4 weeks, I don't have to talk about you again because I saw enough in game one, and we did. Obviously, Joe Burrow looked like Joe Burrow. But is it a huge surprise, even acknowledging that what those who have been at training camp have seen on defense, that's been pretty encouraging? Is it at all surprising that after the first preseason game, we're talking about safety play? And that's even taking out of the mix the fact that Geno Stone is dealing with an injury. Now he is dealing with an injury. You guys were just talking about how this is something that's being talked about and written about nationally. And I've got to think, if you're an outsider, you're going, wait a minute. You've decided to run it back with Geno Stone. You decided to not draft a safety, decided to not acquire a safety in free agency. You sent mixed messages with Geno Stone because you showed confidence in him by not cutting him, but you asked him to take a pay cut. But there didn't seem to be a plan B if he said no to the pay cut. Like, if I'm watching this from, far away, I'm going like, what are you guys doing at safety? And so that to me is extraordinarily frustrating. That's not the only culprit on Thursday for their defensive issues. Obviously offensive line depth is something you guys just discussed. It's something we're going to talk about a lot. Man, what a surprise there. God, in February, we thought they really need to overhaul the guard position. What did they not do? They didn't really overhaul the guard position. So what are we talking about right now? Guard depth. That's frustrating. I mean that's and so those things were issues before Thursday. They're issues coming out of Thursday, and so I walked away from the game pretty displeased, quite frankly, with just the fact that the look and feel of the game was familiar, and the themes coming out of it have been the same themes we've been discussing for 7 months.
I mean, the disappointment is understandable, but the concern level, this is a phrase that probably should be fired into the sun along with matchup nightmare, but vanilla defense in the preseason. Do you buy into that they didn't show much, and so it's a little too early to be concerned based on what we've seen at camp and the fact that it is a new scheme and they're not trying to show too much? It's worth noting too that 15 of the 17 preseason games this year have hit the over. Like it's just a thing in the preseason where defenses aren't Baltimore side bringing a blitz and knocking Anthony Richardson out, but it doesn't happen that way in the preseason. And is it too early to be concerned about the defense after one game?
Why have the Bengals earned the benefit of the doubt all of a sudden? No, it's not too early. Like, okay, vanilla defense, fine. Were the Philadelphia Eagles rewriting offensive football? I mean, did Mike Martz grab the headset and was he like, hey, it's the greatest show on turf in the 21st? No, I mean, guys didn't seem like they were in position. I know, there weren't a ton of like missed tackles, but one of the Bengals' biggest issues now for a couple of years has been giving up big plays. Well, when I see a reoccurrence of the same issue that has plagued this team for a couple of years, I'm supposed to just, go shrug my shoulders and go, oh, gee, vanilla defense. Like, no, it's basically a lot of the same group of players. I know there were guys who didn't play. Dax Hill, CTB, BJ Hill didn't play. Like, I understand that. But I guess it comes down to, like, how much do you give the Cincinnati Bengals the benefit of the doubt when it comes to their defense? And I guess maybe to a degree, how much do you balance or weigh how they've practiced versus how they play? I you talk about a phrase that should be fired into the sun. I see better than I hear. I hear about Al Golden's magical defensive wizardry that's going to be so good. We're going to take the same players from last year's awful defense and turn it into a good one. That's fine. What I watched on Thursday was painfully familiar. And until that changes, and maybe it changes week 1 against the crappy Cleveland Browns. Maybe that changes. But all I can do is form an opinion based on what I've watched in the past and what I saw on Thursday. Neither are good. And I'm sorry, as great as Al Golden may be and as vanilla. By the way, all I heard was, well, Al Golden, we're going to dumb down the defense. So the defense is actually going to be more vanilla when the real games begin. So they went extra vanilla. They went double vanilla. What are we doing? No, they do not. The defensive unit of the Cincinnati Bengals, which got last year's coach fired, does not deserve the benefit of the doubt at all.
I am really glad, Mo, that you mentioned the greatest show on turf, because I really feel like the comparisons are now flooding in between Kurt Warner and Tanner McKee. I mean, when we're talking about this and vanilla defense, they're playing their backups. This was it's not like it was, Lane Johnson and Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and company out there. This was just their backups. This was some kid from Tarleton State.
Yeah.
Who's just tearing them up.
We've talked about this, the three of us on this podcast before, that like with last year's defense, sometimes the other team is just going to make a play and you tip your cap, right? Sometimes Lamar Jackson does something superhuman. Sometimes, the other team's defense at times is going to do everything they can on Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and those dudes are just going to make plays. I saw a defense that showed very little resistance against a Philadelphia offense that didn't exactly have a lot of guys who were making me go, holy crap, I wish the Bengals had that guy. No, you talk about some of the same familiar themes. Procedural penalties, right? Situational football. Like, all of it felt familiar. All of it felt excruciatingly familiar when, again, maybe not the procedural penalty stuff, but many of us have expressed skepticism that they've done enough to the defensive side of the ball, and Thursday, at least for a few days, could perhaps be used as confirmation of that.
There are two people in the Cincinnati sports scene that have had more pressure on them to do better with the same. Terry Francona, has been asked to do the same thing that Al Golden is being asked of. And so I think for the sake of the conversation, we do have to kind of treat it with the same level of patience. Like, this mistakes early and seeing them is going to be about how they improve from them, is going to be about Al Golden's ability to take those people that are making those mistakes, get them out of there that don't fit, understand who to put in, understand how to teach and fix and get those guys better, so that when they hit a stretch in like the middle of the season with 3 games and your offense is humming and you score 99 points and lose all 3, that's not happening at that point in the season. So I do think a level of patience is going to be really important, and Al Golden is inevitably going to be judged by taking mistake-ridden performances and players and finding ways to either properly replace them and keeping their confidence going, or just getting them to start doing it the right way, whatever that is. So to me, it's okay to have a game like this, but I'm much more interested in game 2 and seeing how much better that looks, but with an understanding that it's going to take until you get into that first, second quarter of the season to see what impact Al Golden is really having. It's not surprising, just like it wasn't surprising with some of the early Reds performances this season, to see the team stink in certain ways or make a lot of the same mistakes they had made in the past. It's that how quickly and how able are they to actually clean them up with the same players doing that. That's what I'm fascinated about now after that clunker in the opener.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all, except and one of you guys may want to cover this. The Bengals have lost the season opener each of the last 3 years. But what you said makes sense. What you said is right. Like, Al Golden isn't going to suddenly take last year's unit and turn it into a defense that's playing mistake-free football. We all understand that. But isn't there a level of urgency this August to be better this September than they were last year? And so, if you want to default to, well, they're going to play the Browns, who, Shedeur Sanders, man, I watched people scream at each other about him on TV this weekend. That was fun. But if you're taking solace in, well, it's just the Browns week 1, okay, like maybe, but that's now we're going to do that. Now it's just because we did that last year and it didn't work. So I think what you say makes total sense, and nobody should be making sweeping conclusions after one preseason game. But I think when you combine the fact that we're wondering some of the same things in mid-August we were wondering last March, when you're seeing some of the same things in August that we watched all of last season, and the preseason and training camp are all about doing everything you can to get off to a better start, what we saw on Thursday, and then the pleas for patience in the days after the game, kind of to me fall a little bit on deaf ears. I mean, again, sure, it's going to take Al Golden a while, but is that going to come at the expense of them losing a game early in the season? They shouldn't.
You pro or con on admitting the mistake and going out and signing a right guard or a safety and bring them in at this point in camp and trying to boost at that point?
I mean, it's not even admitting a mistake. It's making your team better. They're not good enough at those positions. Jay, Paul and I have talked about the fact that I renamed my dog Gino after Geno Stone because he takes terrible angles on the toys that I throw. Like, if I throw it this way, she will run this way, run past the toy, then circle back. And it's like, so we renamed her Gino after Geno Stone. Now he's hurt, and then you have these dudes behind him that lack experience. Like, how do you look at that unit and conclude we're good? And then at guard, how do you look at Lucas Patrick and company and conclude we're good? A lot of us were asking those questions all spring and summer.
Right.
If it was on the table all spring and summer and they've played one game and now there's an injury, like, of course I don't know what the answer is. A lot of people said, well, when they brought in Noah Fant, well, he doesn't play guard. Like, well, if the Noah Fant of safeties becomes available, go get him. If the Noah Fant of guards becomes available, go get him. Yeah, I have this deep fear that we're going to be talking about those positions when they're playing games that matter. And if that's the case, then I really think Duke Tobin's going to have a lot to answer to.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. I will say, I do want to point out before I let you out, I feel like we might have, I don't know what your thoughts are on the current state of the Mo Egger Award for the receiver coming out of nowhere. I feel like Mitch Tinsley has emerged as a guy. Do you view it the same way? Where is the current status of the Mo Egger Award?
Well, we do maybe have to update the odds. I feel like Isaiah Williams has played himself out of contention.
Yeah, the one off the face was a tough one to recover from.
Yeah, I feel like that was I don't want to totally take him off the board, but he's a long shot. I'm obviously rooting for Jamoy Mays. That really feels like it hasn't taken. So yeah, we've got some time. We've got some time for Mitch to make a larger case. It's all going to come down to that last preseason game. We'll see. Right now, I'm as much as I am invested in the Mo Egger Award because it is, my award. We're talking more about Jermaine Burton on a Monday morning, aren't we? And that's also deeply frustrating.
That's great. I'm trying to not, but I'm just glad that you showed up in the car today and you didn't have an undisclosed injury to yourself or your camera.
If I ever have an injury, it will not be undisclosed. You guys will know. You guys will know. By the way, this is not this where I'm sitting right now. The lighting is. I might just do it from here every week.
Yeah, I'm here for it. It sounds great, and you've got the view of practice. So you're doing three things at once, really. I mean, you're just doing it all. I appreciate it. You're always here for us, no matter what. No matter what. No creepy parking lots with anybody walking by, making you concerned about your well-being. You know, you're protected by the strong people of UC, so you're in a good place, and I like that, and I thank you.
It's always fun to be able to come up with a makeshift studio for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I will talk to you tomorrow from 3 to 4 on ESPN.
Okay. See you guys.
1530.
Thanks.
Have a good one, Mo. Okay, much thanks to Mo for hopping in. No matter, he's always there for us, no matter where he's at, and I always appreciate that about him. We sort of touched a little bit on the Jermaine Burton thing from yesterday, which is a good chance for us to dive into some of the injuries that are compiling a little bit here at camp and where those are at. Jay, we had a bunch of people not practicing yesterday. Where are we at? Let's talk through a few of these.
Yeah, so I'll run down the list and you can start where you want to start. Geno Stone, obviously. Dax Hill, that's just part of the maintenance plan. Running back Kendall Milton. Defensive end Joseph Osai. Defensive end Cedric Johnson. Tight end Mike Gesicki. Defensive end Trey Hendrickson, obviously. And defensive tackle B.J. Hill, which again is part of a maintenance plan.
Yeah, I think there seems to be this comfortable plan with B.J. Hill being ready to go by the opener. It sounds like that's what they're tracking his progress towards. And there is still, we're just under 4 weeks, so plenty of time to get B.J. Hill up to speed and ready to go. You mentioned Osai. Osai on the first play Saturday of competitive just went to go fire off and kind of came up hobbling, went off to the side, didn't come back in. And so Shamar Stewart and Miles Murphy took over the first team edge reps there. And, he's out now. We don't know totally the severity, but I don't think it's serious. You just get into these soft tissue things. This is what it is. It's that season. It has been that season where these things are going to creep up. You're on day 12, practice 12. This was, these guys are going hard at this point. They just came off a game, but yeah. So add Osai to the list of some of the dinged up, but also, and that's tough for Joe, who feels like he's always dealing with this stuff, but just throw Shamar Stewart into the reps that he needs. We talked about the promote, both things that we talked about on the walkout. Talked about the Shamar Stewart promotion. It sounded like that was going to happen anyway, and then it happened when Joe went down. And you end up with there. Well, now here's Shamar Stewart taking all the reps. I have to tell this. So we're in the locker room after that practice, standing in the middle after talking to somebody, and Shamar Stewart is doing the slowest walk to the garbage can to throw tape away or whatever he was doing. The slowest walk you've ever seen. We're just like, we knew that it was a hot. They were heaters this weekend. They were really hot, and Saturday was particularly competitive, and he had to go an unexpected amount. He has been thrown into the fire, so to speak, and just say how you feel. How was that? And he's just like, tired, hurting. And he just stumbled forward towards the garbage can. And it was just like, you could tell that one knocked him out pretty good. His body is getting put through it and getting up into football shape, but it's happening. And he's continued to be effective. Miles Murphy with a sack on Sunday, blowing past Orlando Brown for a sack of Joe Burrow, what would have been. And so, but those guys have continued to have their moments, but yeah, they were feeling it and having to fill in there. They're down a bunch of DNs now. You mentioned Cedric Johnson. Yeah. We saw Taven Bryan standing up on the outside the other day. They're getting deep into the roster right now because of some of the injuries at that spot.
Yeah, and with Trey out too, obviously that does really limit them. And I think people might question why Shamar is so whipped right now. Wasn't he working out? You mentioned it, football shape. There is a total difference between being conditioned and being in football shape, and he's finding that out right now. I don't have any doubt that he's not going to be ready to go by the start of the season, but he is not playing football for a long time, and all those reps he missed, they're giving him more work. They know he's whipped They know he's tired and he's dragging out there, but he's got to make up for missed time, and he might be regretting his holdout a little bit right now. But he needs these reps, and he's going to keep getting them no matter how tired he is.
Yeah, I mean, if I were from a coach's perspective, not from Shamar Stewart's perspective, but from a coach's perspective, you're like, that's good. This is good. That's the kind of practice that he needs, because you know what? There's a good chance that they have to turn to him in Cleveland when it's, who knows, 85, 90 degrees, and to go out there and play 50, 60 snaps. That may be where this thing lands, and so he needs to be ready to do that. The rest of those, I'd have to. I mean, there's not a ton to update. This Cedric Johnson's, we haven't really asked about that specifically, but it's not great. He was in the walking boot. He was on a scooter at one point. Like, I would assume that it's going to be a little bit until we'll have to get a double check on that.
Calf sleeve
timing. Yeah, calf sleeve. So you know what that means. Tricky injury. Got to be
Several
careful.
weeks.
Re-rack the old Burrow piece on everything you need to know about calf injuries. I know more than anybody ever needs to know about how to deal with a calf injury. Don't come back too soon, Cedric. Don't come back too soon. Okay, let's get into Bengals Growler bet. Okay, so we had the Bengals Growler bet from the Thursday game. The Growler bet was who would lead the team in receiving yards, and the tiebreaker being how many yards that would end up being. Now, this came out very soon after Charlie saw a ghost on the show, on the rookie show. And so I appreciate a few of you that decided to drop in some ghost references into the Growler subject header. We ask you, please, when you send in your submissions to the Growler podcast at gmail.com, that, hey, bring some comedy into the header and we'll give you shout outs. So a couple ghost ones. We had this one. If you go full deep cut Ghostbusters, you're going to get a shout out from me. The subject header from John Harth. Are you troubled by strange noises in the middle of the night? Do you experience feelings of dread in your basement or attic? Have you or your family ever seen a spook, specter, or growler? Thank you, John Harth. Appreciated that. And Daniel Bunky, quote, I see dead growlers, Charta Goldsmith. Appreciated that. So thank all of you. Multiple ghost growl busters references were in there. I appreciated that. Everybody that sent those in. Have talked more to Charlie about the ghosts. He continues to say, look, very real experience. Still was not a bit. There was a ghost in that room. He did get through the night okay. Stayed there that night. No, the ghost did not reappear. But we do have a believer on our hands at this point. There's no question. I know you're not still, Jay. And I saw some of you in the comments and in the email inbox pointing out that ghosts are not real in your opinion. Beg to differ.
I think a ghost or a dead man could have done better than we did on this Growler bet. It's not hyperbole to say this might have been the worst Growler bet performance by the host on this show ever. Charlie's pick was Taj Brooks. He had 1 catch for 3 yards. My pick was Jermaine Burton. He had 1 catch for 3 yards. And you had Mitch Tinsley, 1 catch for 15 yards, which was the 6th most on the team. There were 5 better answers than Tinsley. And that was Jamar Chase, of course, 77 yards. He was the one that led the team in receiving. How do we not go? Knowing he was going to play, how did nobody pick Jamar Chase?
Yeah, still, even then, though, you think he's only going to play a couple of series. You're thinking you've got the whole game of airing it out. Look, all I heard you say, you were saying a lot of words there, Jay. All I heard you say was that I won.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. Okay. Shout out Mitch Tinsley and his 115-yard reception. Okay, so we did have a winner here, but we had only two. We're not the only ones that weren't thinking that way. Only 2 people showed up, and they were late. They showed up late. Had Jamar Chase answers. The runner-up is Joe Hyde, who had 53 yards, and the winner was Wade Harwood. And I got to give a shout out to Wade, who just delivered in true Growler listener fashion with 69 yards. Shout out, Wade. You people are so delightfully predictable and on brand. I love you so much. There were a number of people with whoever they picked going with 69 yards. Wade hits it with Jamar Chase. So, Wade, send me an email. give me your contact info, and we will get in touch with you about getting those free drinks at our next live show, which is on the 4th, the kickoff show at BetMGM and Tom's Watch Bar down at the Banks. Okay. We're going to do it. This is the last PD&J before the Monday night game. We'll have Who Dey Light and a training camp recap, but it feels like we should just go all in, give you guys plenty of time to do the next Growler bet, to think about it, research it, get in touch with your inner feelings about it. So, Jay, what do we got for the Growler bet for Monday Night Football in DC?
Well, 69 is not going to win. It's how many yards will the Bengals defense give up? They gave up 432 to the Eagles. That was the second most in a preseason game in the Zach Taylor era. It is the most of any team in the league this year. Obviously, just 1 week and one game, one Hall of Fame game into this preseason, but nobody's given up more than the Bengals. So, and that was against the Eagles backups. Now they're likely going to be seeing Jaden Daniels in the Commanders starters. So, how many yards will the Bengals give up in Washington?
Okay. How many yards will the Bengals give up in Washington? I'll say I'm going to go improvement. I feel like we're going to see some level of improvement. It's hard to think that it's going to be worse. Guess it could be. So I'm going to say 375. I'm going to go 375 for my number for the Washington Commanders. What do you got?
I think it will be worse. I'm going to go 444. Go back to the palindrome. Yeah, I mean, you're going to be playing the starters. I don't know how long the Commanders or starters are going to play, but the Bengals have injuries on defense. They've got guys. I don't know that. I can't see how it's going to get better playing against better competition.
Fair. So what was your number again?
444.
444. Blake Mason approves. Okay. Let's get down to. So I thought about this, Jay. Oh, send your submissions to that to the Growler Podcast at gmail.com. Put something fun or funny in the subject header, and we'll give you a shout out. And it just entertains me as we go through all the submissions. I appreciate it. All right. I thought about doing something fun and occasionally maybe dropping some of this in when we have something. And it's a little Jay's Got Trivia. We've done this at times before, but I like the idea of you offering some trivia. And that way you, the listener, the viewer, can pause it after the question and see how quickly you can get there. See if you can answer the question we'll give it a minute, to knock it out and see if we can get through it. So I like this, Jay. You're great at this stuff. You always have good trivia for me. So you get a chance to flex your trivia muscle on me and see how I can do and see what I can come up with. So Jay's got trivia. What do you got for me? Some Bengals trivia for me.
So this was going to be my Jay's Got Stats until I read the quarterback tiers and went with quarterback hits. Darren Simmons mentioned about how backup safeties have to be really good on special teams. And so I was looking up to see which players led the Bengals in special team snaps. The record, the keeping snaps goes back to 2013, snap counts. So I wanted to see how many of them were safeties. And there's some safeties in there, but I wanted to see if you could name the 5 players with the most special team snaps in a season since 2013. And there's some repeat guys in there. The guy in second place is also in third place and also is in fourth place. Guys that did it year after year, but 5 different names with the most special team snaps in a season.
Okay. I'm basically, we talk often about going through the list of how you're a stalwart, then you can be a maven, then you can be an ace. That's the only way that you can properly reference special teamers in a story. You have to be a special team stalwart, a special teams maven, a special teams ace. I'm just kind of going through the aces in my head here that we've had over the years that have played a lot. So I'm going to start with Vinny Ray. Vinny Ray's got to be in there.
Yes, 7th overall and 4th when you go with taking the multiple guys out.
Okay. All right. So Vinny Ray counts.
2018, 351 snaps.
Love it. Cedric Pearman.
No, he's just outside. He's 11th overall.
Wow. No, I really thought Ced would be in there. Clayton Fedulum.
Yeah. Fedge, he's second, third, and fourth. 380 in 2019, 379 in 2018, 376 in 2017. Doesn't get more consistent than that.
Okay. Ethan Carter.
No, he is 13th overall with 317 in 2020.
Akeem Davis Gaither.
No, he's 17th overall.
All right. I'm not. Tyson Anderson.
6th overall, just outside. And then last year, 345 snaps.
Oh, Uncle Mike
Nope.
T. I'm fresh out. I couldn't do it. What's our list?
Sean Williams, safety,
Oh,
with the most in 2013, 381, edged out Fedulum's 380. Last year, Muma, 371. And 2020, linebacker Jordan Evans with 349, edged out Tyson 345s from last year. You were 4 snaps away from getting Tyson right.
wow. Sean Williams, you forget before he totally took over, just he started off with primarily just grinding on special teams. How about that? Wow.
Yeah, first and fifth on the list is Sean Williams.
Fail for me. That's a hard one. That was
It is
hard.
a hard one.
I should have been better. I was just going with like the guys that I could think about that played and were good and then got caught. Like, really felt like Ethan Carter played more.
It did.
I'm going to check you on that. Arby's. What do you got for me in Arby's?
So Tyson Anderson is just the gift giver. We talked about the house, the video with him giving the house to his parents. Yesterday, I saw him work in the room getting a ball signed, and I asked him who the ball was for, and he said it's for his dad. And he actually, his rookie year, he started getting some players to sign the ball, and I think there were like 3 or 4 signatures on there. So the ball's been sitting at his dad's house with 3 or 4 signatures on it, and his dad's like, "Are you ever gonna finish this?" And so he had the ball, walking around the locker room, getting as many signatures as possible to give that to his dad. And another quick Arby's, I just thought it was really cool yesterday. Mike Brown turned 90, and the number of players going over to him and saying hello and happy birthday when he was on the golf cart. I'm sure Zach probably mentioned it in the team meeting, but still, it was Jamar, it was T. Higgins, it was Trey Hendrickson. They were all going over, and I'm sure a lot more did too. I think that is a heck of a milestone, 90, and he is the oldest owner. As of February, when Bears owner Virginia McCaskey passed away, Mike Brown is the oldest owner currently in the NFL.
And, I want to point out, I know that Kay Adams had gone through Indianapolis and had sat down with Lou Anarumo there, and there was some talk about, stuff from Cincinnati and how they're playing in the preseason game in week 3 here. And she asked him who's going to be the first person that you go and reach out to go to try to find over there. And he said, Mr. Brown. Like Mr. Brown. And I got to tell you, and we've talked about this often, from people that have worked here in with the Bengals, people that are with this team and in players, coaches, staffers, when they move on, he's one of the first people they talk about, and they talk about in these types of terms. Go back to Brian Callahan in his introductory speech in Tennessee. Lou. Yeah, I mean, I understand the way he's viewed outside, but for those that know him closely, that have worked with him and understand who he is and how much it all matters to him and how much he cares about it and how much he cares about the people that work for him, that's consistent. Like what you hear Lou say, what you hear players coming up and doing on his 90th birthday, like that is a consistent feeling that you see around here. But yeah, that's a good note. Happy birthday to Mike, 90, man. It's awesome. Mine is, Jay, you and I and James Rapine were standing right next to each other yesterday when T. Higgins, you probably have seen it at this point. James just nails the video, which is hard to do when a deep throw is coming right at you. A deep ball to T with DJ Turner draped in front of him, and T just goes up and, you got mossed is kind of the line for it, and just moss, just ridiculous. And that video has taken off from James as he crushed it. I hope you've probably seen it. I mentioned, you got Moss doesn't really play here because T does this all the time. He needs his own, and then you got teed up. It just thought about it in the moment. Appreciate James for giving me credit on it in his tweet. But my thought was, this needs to be a thing. T does this enough that you got teed up needs to be a thing. I'm talking to you, Bengals content, and if you're listening, okay, I'm just giving gifts like we like to do. You got teed up has got to be a thing. Tee him up. That's got to be. How has this not happened yet? How are we in this far into this man's career? He was drafted in 2020. He's been doing this for years. That we haven't turned you got teed up into a thing. I mean, I got marketing ideas with T on the golf course, like you've got a DB's face on the golf ball, right? As he puts them on there and hits it. There's a lot of different things that we could do. I would like you got teed up to be a thing. I'm going to do my best to push it. But I feel like that is a prime example of a type of play that he makes that just needs a nickname.
Yeah.
It needs a proper. We can't be using. I appreciate Randy. Randy Moss needs to be in his own category. Teed up needs to be the new thing.
Yeah, as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, that is awesome. You came up with it right on the spot. You could have a basketball ref like sending the DB off, like tee him up and get him off.
Yeah, send him off. That's exactly right. Tease the ref, right?
Yeah.
And the DB is the player or the coach.
Yep.
Tee him up, send him off. There's so many possibilities here, Jay.
Would he get a taunting penalty if he did that in a game? Be like teed up
he needs to start
tee up the cornerback and send him off.
We need to ask. We already had the officials usually come through, and they do a session with reporters about any questions we have. We should have asked if T. Higgins tees somebody up after he mosses them or tees them up. Can he get a flag for that? And if that's okay, he needs to start teeing everybody up every time he does it. We've got so many ideas. We'll have to approach T with this here next locker room.
I do want to say too, because James' video was incredible. I don't think it does justice to what we saw with the naked eye. I watched the video and I was like, what I saw in person just was like mouth agape, like, holy crap, I can't believe. And it doesn't, I don't know if it's the angle or what it is. It's an amazing catch, but just the way I see it in my mind and it was right in front of us. I just thought it was one of the more incredible catches I've seen, and it is good. It's a great catch, but it's like, I don't know why the video just doesn't hit the same as what I saw live.
And it's also an example of, Burrow's pinpoint accuracy and why T is such a great fit. He puts it up where the highest point where he knows T can high point it. And if you're DJ Turner, you can't play it better than that. You just don't have the physical gifts to do that, to compete up at that level the way he does. That's just a thing where it's two guys who are elite at something. So go check that out and let's get TT and people up. Let's get them teeing people up. That's a great idea. All right. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back. We'll have some more camp recaps on who they like coming up this week as we lead into the Monday Night Football game in Washington. So, all right. Thanks everybody for listening and for watching on YouTube. We will talk to you next time. Have a good one.